I want to get your thoughts on this, James. We have this story from Fox 5 Atlanta. Marjorie Taylor Greene was victim of swatting at Rome residence. Police confirm. So this is a terrifying story.
It is.
A bunch of outlets have reported this is a prank. A swatting, for those that aren't familiar, I think most of you are, but just in case, is when someone calls the police and says there's a violent crime currently taking place, so that a SWAT team shows up to your house and potentially kills you. People have died from this. And it's horrifying. I can't imagine. There's a story about this guy. Cops surround his house. He has no idea what's going on. He comes out armed. The cops shoot and kill him. Imagine, first of all, that guy being the victim, having no idea why the cops are at your house. Then think about, I'm not saying it's worse, but that cop who was told there's a guy about to murder his wife or something. We need you to save her life. And he shows up and he's like, I got to stop this guy. And then it turns out someone tricked you into killing an innocent man. Talk about the nightmare scenario that swatting is. And they went after Marjorie Taylor Greene's house. This is, it was a trans activist. The reporting was, they told the police that the reason they did it was because they oppose her position on trans kids. Because Marjorie Taylor Greene recently introduced a bill that would make it a felony to give transgender surgery or medication to children. So I'm curious too, James, because you talk about revolution and where we're at. Where does this fit in with, their power grabs, the power structures? Like, what is this?
Okay, so just to mention, by the way, the last time I actually talked to Marjorie like a month ago, and this is exactly the subject, not swatting, but trans activism and the surgeries and everything to the children was exactly what we talked about. So it's kind of funny. I like Marjorie. So what's going on here is kind of an unbridled demonstration of being willing to step outside of the normal boundaries of society in order to get your way. So Marjorie Taylor Greene proposes a bill. This is the way that we do things. If the bill passes, the bill passes. There are lots of bills that pass that people like or don't like on either side, and that's just the name of the game. Maybe it doesn't pass, maybe whatever. But the idea that you're now going in to do this act of intimidation that basically sends this huge signal.
Outright terror.
Outright terror.
Literal definition of it.
There's few things. There are some things, but there are a few things scarier than the idea, like you said, of armed, angry police officers thinking something is going on that requires desperate measures surrounding your house or whatever at 1 a.m. Right in the middle of the night. You're asleep. You don't know what's going on, and all of a sudden this is happening. And so what this is it's just another escalation in the kind of pattern of intimidation that we're seeing. So what were they doing outside the Supreme Court justices' houses? They were protesting, but then Judge Kavanaugh has a credible threat to his life involved with this. And what do you have? Well, it turns out, funny enough, you mentioned trans activists. The exact same trans activist who got me kicked off of Twitter, the exact same one, Alejandra Carabello, advocated for more of this, the intimidation tactics, intimidating of the Supreme Court justices, even in this environment. The exact same one. So what you have is people who are stepping outside of the frame of society. They're breaking the detente of society to get their way, and they feel perfectly entitled to be able to do it because they've got some trumped up idea about, what do you call it, systemic or structural
while
power.
demanding that you stay within the lines.
Oh, yeah,
and so
absolutely.
we
That's a repressive tolerance again, or liberating tolerance, actually.
We saw this with the Gravel Institute.
Mm-hmm.
After January 6th, the Gravel Institute tweeted that they supported the action, but not the people. The people were the wrong ones to do it, and they deleted the tweet. People were like, you're saying that you thought that was good? And they were like, yup. And then they were like, y'all are crazy. And then they deleted it like, okay, maybe we shouldn't admit that. That's the crazy thing. You have people who are lucid. They understand what they're doing. They know how the machine works. They know why they're claiming you can't do it and while they do it. But then you have the dumb people who mindlessly march along completely clueless and don't care. Sam Harris comes off to me like he is, what's the opposite of sentient?
Sam Harris comes off to me as the fulfillment of the critical theory magnum opus called Dialectic of Enlightenment, to be honest with you.
Explain.
So Dialectic of Enlightenment was this book written in 44 and rewritten and published again in 47 by Max Horkheimer and Theodore Adorno, the two kind of principal critical theorists of the era. And what they said is that, you start off with the Enlightenment, you enter into this phase denouncing myth and entering into rationality. But what happens is that through the dialectical process of transformation of Enlightenment, rationality itself becomes its own mythology, and you literally enter into this new kind of religious order of rationality that completely divorces you from being genuinely rational. You're now operating within this myth. And I read this book and I was like, this is insane. This is just crazy. And then I looked at Sam Harris and I was like, oh, okay.
So maybe what's the opposite of lucid?
Murky?
Yeah,
Murky?
clouded.
Clouded?
Yeah.
Well, so the way I see it is Sam Harris is...
Dude, it's almost like looking through cataracts instead of
Right.
lucid vision. It's like he's got this fog in front of his eyes.
But I don't think that's the right way to describe it, because hypnosis is a better way to describe
Yeah,
it.
that's a good way to put it. That is a
Because
good way to put
even
it.
if your eyes are cloudy, you can be thinking clearly.
Yeah.
Even if your information is bad, you wouldn't say something as insane about dead kids. He's in a state of like cult hypnosis
Yeah.
that has stripped away his individuality, his agency. And
Yeah.
now he's just mindlessly droning along. There are people like that. But then there are people who are fully aware they're breaking the rules and they know it and they don't care. Like I mentioned, the Gravel Institute.
Oh, yeah, totally.